unbelievably, I'm already back. I closed out the live stream from a few minutes ago. Really hasn't been that long ago. And I will say this, the live stream I did already today, 2 hours. What I did was, the first half of it was pretty useful stuff for beginners using OpenToonz or Tahoma, because I covered some things about the schematic, how the schematic works, and also that sort of dovetailed to a degree into the into using the, so this is the schematic in case you don't know. And then also how that dovetails into using the skeleton tool for things like inverse kinematics animation, like for puppet animation. So that was pretty useful information. What I did was I did some edits in YouTube to basically take the first hour of that live stream and re-edit it and just chop out the last half where I was sort of flailing around with the shots that I'm working on for today. And then that will be reposted at some point soon and properly labeled to be about the OpenToonz / Tahoma2d schematic. And I'll just post that as a standard video here shortly. I expect it'll just have to basically, YouTube's got to do its editing thing under the hood, and that's that. So, however, I followed Sodapop's advice, so I don't know if Sodapop's going to jump on here and join the stream. I'm guessing that maybe Sodapop will, because he was watching, and then I said I might come back, and who knows, maybe he'll get the notification and check in. So I want to say the following. I followed Sodapop's advice, which was that I went ahead and I took the plunge and downloaded Tahoma2d 1.2. Well, here's the good news. And kudos, by the way, to Jeremy Bullock and his team for the way they did this, because it worked very well. I'm quite happy with the way this went, which was, to wit, the portable file is actually a zip file, and within that zip file is a Tahoma2d folder that you just drag and drop onto your system, and that's it. There is no installation. You just drag the folder, wango bango, and away you go. That's good news. I like that. Good news number 2 is if you go into the preferences, it is in fact the case that if you click import preferences and then browse to your previous Tahoma2d installation, because I put it in a separate folder. I actually renamed the old Tahoma2d folder Tahoma2d _ 1.1, and then I went there, imported my preferences, and indeed it worked seamlessly, and with very, very few exceptions, everything about my Tahoma2d configuration appears to have been restored properly. So that's great news. The issue that was kind of bogging me down a little bit ago was the fact that these images that were created in Krita, once they had been, some of them edited, like this one was edited in Tahoma2d with the raster, just the paint tools. I use the paint tools to add some images, to add eye blinks and things like that. And if you look really closely, what you see is you get this artifacting around the edge. So this is a known problem that's existed with OpenToonz and Tahoma forever. Okay? So it was a bit of a deal buster and a drag, because going forward, it's pretty important that, at least to me, that I was able to reuse some of these images. So I made a modification of one of these images to add the veil that she's going to be wearing on the next bunch of scenes. And then I was kind of stopped in my tracks by the fact that you've got this artifacting around the edge. So I wanted to tell you that I did find a fix for it. Here's the fix. If you open, and this is a big deal, because if you're exchanging imagery between Tahoma and other programs, you don't want these artifacts to be showing up where all of a sudden the edges of your character are all screwed up and don't render properly. And so I'm gonna kill that plugin and show you that when this renders, so this is in the proper preview render mode, you see that there's a nasty edge there. However, what I did was I just added a adjust levels plugin. So that's here in your plugins, insert effects, image adjust levels. Okay, I added that, and what I did was I simply clamped the alpha input, and that fixed the problem. Okay, so you can see what happens as you drag the, so you're basically reducing. It's good to know that we actually have a fix for it. So there we go. You do an image adjustment and you just clamp the alpha input, and now everything looks fine. So we've solved that problem and we can just move forward. Okay? The fact that I see it when I'm not in render mode, I couldn't care less. I don't care as long as there's a simple fix that allows us to overcome the problem. So we've got one concurrent viewer, so obviously my live stream after jumping off here for a bit isn't quite as popular as it was a few minutes ago. So hey, you know, if you're out there, identify yourself, and let's all have nothing but fun as we move forward in Tahoma2d. Now there is one bit of bad news vis-a-vis the advice that I was given in the earlier live stream, which has to do with importing Photoshop files. Just so you know, Soda Pop, if you're out there or if you watch this video, I took the Photoshop image that was exported from Krita, and to be perfectly accurate, probably when you're bringing Photoshop files into Tahoma2d 1.2 or OpenToonz 1.5, you're probably not getting the Photoshop files from Krita. I'm guessing you're probably getting them from Clip Studio Paint or something like that. Long story short is that the issues with Photoshop files that have always been present in OpenToonz importing Photoshop files either as a set of columns or as a sequence of frames, for me, it still doesn't work. It did exactly what it did in Tahoma 1.1. So I don't think that's Tahoma's fault, frankly. I think that's because there's something, and by the way, this is a known issue with Krita, that the Photoshop export from Krita has always been problematic as well. It's been a long since known problem, and so it is what it is. With that, let's just get busy. So what we got to do is, she's going to do, well, I actually animated it in Krita. I wonder if that's still open. It isn't. I'd have to open the CRAW file, but I don't even think I'm going to, because what I did, I probably can do with the plastic tool a little more quickly anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move forward, assuming I'm going to work without the plastic tool, because I don't want to have the problem of not being able to paint in the X sheet. So we'll assume that she's basically going to do this. She's going to kind of just perk up a little bit. So we'll do that with the plastic tool. We'll do it later. It's no big deal. The question is has to do with the acting. So if we go over to the edit here, where we're at is this this shot right here, and she kind of looks the prints up and down, you might say. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, it seems to me I'm going to do it in this should be kind of interesting. I think the first thing I'm going to do is hit the S key, select all, and copy this into this drawing. And then in this drawing, I'm going to actually erase everything except her eyes. So, okay, so now one thing that, in terms of my preferences, the sort of the sub-preferences of your tools did not get preserved, but that's, you know, no big deal. I tend to like erasing in freehand mode, so what I'm going to do is just essentially delete everything except her eyeballs. And then you'll see shortly why I'm doing that. And then I'm going to cut a hole in her head in the other drawing so that actually no. Well, let me think about this for a second. This is where it gets a little ugly. What I would actually have to do is preserve the whites of her eyes in yet a third layer. So if this is all Greek to you and doesn't really make sense, don't sweat it too much. We'll get to it. Okay. So now, interestingly, excuse me, why, I wonder. Okay, so there's one more thing, by the way, that did not get, that did not port over from Tahoma 1.1. It's a little bit of a bummer, which is my default raster palette did not port over. So again, not a big deal. Let's just go ahead and try using the standard pencil and kind of see how things go here. Hit the B key. I'm hitting Shift Spacebar so I can zoom in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sample that. And then this probably needs to be shrunk down a bit. So we're just going to kind of delineate. Again, R key to sample. At least that's, I don't know that that's the default hotkey for sampling colors. I don't think it is actually. It's a preference I changed a long time ago in Tahoma and OpenToonz. But basically I'm just creating some eyeballs so that I can then animate them. So yeah, we'll just clean that off. Hit the R key. Well, you know, if her eyes are going to dart around, then maybe we want to actually have them separated so we can just animate them as we need to. Okay, so that's that. These are a little bit probably more oval than I would prefer, so I'm going to actually tweak the bottom of that a little bit too. Okay, so now N key. We'll see how this goes, but I think what I can now do is I'm going to have to give her some new eye backgrounds, but for the moment what I'm going to do is just select the interior of her eye and just erase it. Ooh, okay, that's a strange little artifact there. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, drag it to here, and actually put it underneath. So the whole idea is that the eyes, the eyeballs will be masked out by her. By her face, and then here I'm going to actually hit the B key, and create a smart raster level, and I'm just going to draw a shape, fill it, and then we should be able to dial that in. Again, B key, fill that. And of course you could just fill the whole screen with white actually if you wanted to, but okay, and then I'm also going to create a slightly darker tone here so that I can just get the, and I can be sloppy with my painting because obviously it's masked out again by her face. So that gets us, kind of gets us started. And all of these will have to be placed in a, or piped through the plastic tool. Okay, so then over top of this, I'm going to do yet another layer. I'm gonna hit the B key, boop, do that. Hit the R key to sample that color, so that I can then hit the B key, and we're just gonna paint some closed eye shape, like so. And over here it's going to be a little trickier because, okay, so I'm going to, since this is a smart raster level, I'm going to go ahead and go like that and touch this up as well. Okay, so then over here we're going to go like that, and then I'm going to unfortunately have to create multiple colors to be able to match that shadowing. But that'll give us the ability to at least give her the occasional eye blink. So, alright, so we'll add another palette entry, hit the R key, sample that color, and I'm going to see if my hotkeys work. They do, that's cool. Okay, so Control. Alright, so B. So what I'm going to do then, since the hotkeys seem to be working, I'm going to actually just draw that shape, add another color, sample the other shadow color, draw that shape, and then hit the tilde key to solo that so that I can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to fill that, I'm going to fill that, and then just clean up the edge a bit, like so. And like I said, that just gives me the ability to give her an eye blink where needed. Okay, Control tilde, turns that hotkey back off, hit the N key, and then there you go. So now you got your eye blink, and we can just stick that in anywhere we want. Okay, cool. So, and when it renders, again, because we clamped the alpha, we don't have the edge artifacting that we had earlier. So basically we're kind of back in business. Now, this is cool because frankly, through most of this sequence that we're working on right now, we're going to have quite a few shots where this pose with a little bit of modification, you know, vis-a-vis the plastic tool and these different layers I just set up, this is going to get us through quite a few shots. So that's why I wanted to take a break from the other live stream and really just step back and think about my work going forward, because I knew that there's going to be, whatever I do next is going to either serve me or bite me in the hiney quite a few times over the next couple days. Okay, so now this is a standard raster level. So the only other thing I want to do here is fix up her hair a bit. She's got a little bit of a wacky thing going on here with her hair, so I'm going to just bring this in like that. That's better. Just balance that out. And maybe I can use a fill tool. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, and now I'm going to add another brush. As I said, my actual settings as far as my palettes did not port over to Tahoma 1.2 from 1.1, but basically no big deal. Okay, cool. So that gets us in good stead for moving forward. Okay, so having done that, probably we should go ahead and do the plastic tool. So it's going to be based on her bod, and I'm going to hit save, and we save everything. I believe my render settings are probably already set for this scene. Okay, 510. And so we hit the X key, we create a mesh, done. Choose. Now I'm going to keep it pretty simple. We can always adjust the skeleton later. Alright, and then generally what I do is just jump into animate mode and just make sure things are kind of sort of moving the way I expect. So that looks okay. So I'm going to hit undo a couple times, just get it back to its initial position. And then F3 in the stage schematic, we're going to take the whites of her eyes, the eyeballs, and the eye blinks, and we're going to pipe them all through the plastic tool. So the plastic tool now controls everything, and as you will see, when we animate something, everything moves together, so that's good. I don't know what that little artifact there is. I suspect. So shot number 510 consists of what? Well, she's got her veil on, and the prince just showed up. And so now we're going to stretch all these columns down a ways. And then I think right away in the shot, we're going to have her pop up this way. So, I'm actually thinking I'm going to go ahead and do the old turn off keep distance so that she actually pops up like that. So there's a little bit of a boom. The only thing being I don't think I still want her to be perked upwards. Okay, so then what happens is her eyes, so we'll call these eyeballs. Okay, they dart around a bit. So I'm going to hit the A key and get these. We might as well put the center where it should be, probably something like that. And then the idea being that we're going to go Control C, Control. So she gets into position, Control V, and now her eyes are going to dart. I really want this to be I don't really want any keyframe interpolation, and I don't want to have to put in a whole bunch of keys. Normally what I would do is, if you move something from here to here, then Tahoma is going to interpolate between those two positions over however many frames it is. In this case, let me go to my preferences, and under animation, I'm going to change the default interpolation to constant. And that's just going to make it so that when her eyes move, there's no interpolation. It's just going to jump from position to position. Now, in my experience, that what I just did does not actually work if you've already got animation keyframes in place. So probably, for example, if I go like this, it's probably still going to interpolate. Let's see. Nope, it didn't. Okay, so that's good. So that's another thing with Tahoma that is an improvement over at least the old days with OpenToonz, where if you already had a keyframe in there, you can't change. It's too late to change the interpolation unless you delete all the keyframes and do them over again. But it looks like here this actually worked properly. And I'm going to actually let her look him up and down twice and see if that feels okay. And then just for fun, we'll go like this and maybe smack another eye blink in there. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to turn the plastic tool mesh off. I wonder if I can't remember there. I know there's a preference. There's a preference somewhere for actually having the meshes not show. I don't remember where it is at the moment, so I guess we'll live with that. Alright, so rewind. Okay, yeah, it's fine. It looks good. It all happened a little too quick, though. Scene settings. Yeah, frame rate's 8 frames a second. So okay. Boom. Yeah, this all happens way too quickly. Both too soon and too fast, I think. I'm going to want to spread those out a bit. But we'll just keep looking at it and see how it feels. Comes up. Yeah. It's a little bit quick. A little bit quick, folks. So let's grab this, 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 and we'll just stretch this out. Unfortunately, you know, unlike in Blender, there's really not a good way to take keyframes and actually just stretch them. Most unfortunately. But, okay, there we go. So she perks up. I like that. Okay, so now there's something else I want to do. I'm actually going to go into this drawing, and I'm getting rid of those eyebrows so that I can manually, just on another level, just do animation with the brows, because I know that's going to be coming up again and again as well. So this brush should do the trick. I'm going to hit the R key to sample the flesh tone, and we're just going to erase the eyebrows. There's so much you can do with body language and eyebrows. Eyebrows, you know, squinting the eyes a little bit, that sort of thing. Super useful for subtle character acting. So now I need to actually grab that little tone right there and color that in. Save our work, save everything. And we're back in business. So now, she's lacking eyebrows. So I'm going to go here. This is actually a good example of where ultimately kind of baking this whole thing down to a sub-X sheet is not a horrible idea. Because, you know, it's kind of puppet animation, and we're going to wind up with a lot of levels. But what I'm going to do here is hit the B key and just... And I'm not going to use the fill tool at all on this level. I don't think. I think I'm just going to do everything with the brush. Okay. We may even want to add some extra anti-aliasing on that. We'll see. But basically, we're in good shape. So that's that. So as you can see, the eyebrows got left behind. So the solution to that is the same as before. We hit F3 and we pipe the brows into the plastic tool. Which actually caused them to be offset. The simplest solution here is just use the Animate tool to get them to their initial position properly, which in this case I think should actually be... Okay, so let me be really clear about this. So the problem, this is actually kind of the quintessential problem with the plastic tool, is that now for all time going forward, whenever I want to animate her eyebrows, they are going to be in the wrong position. And I say that because to change her expression would require to just drawing another, like I would just draw another version of the eyebrows with maybe the, let's just try this. Okay, so I cannot actually draw in the X sheet, but the problem is, without being in the X sheet, I have no perspective of where her eyes are. I don't know where to draw, right? Okay, so here's what we'll do. I'm going to try to solve this in a kind of an unusual way. I'm going to delete that level and clean my cast and resave my project, and then we're going to deal with the eyebrows in a completely different way that may be non-intuitive for many of you. So our panels, we want to go to our cast. We want to remove all unused levels, and we want to file, Save all. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this level, sample this color, hit the B key. This is actually where using Krita would be smarter. Let's do it. Here's what we'll do. This should actually work really well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the, I'm going to go to maximize panel. I'm going to hit the N key. So this is our actual size. And I'm actually just going to take a screenshot. Alt print screen. Okay? You'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to create a new file and paste into it what I just drew. All right, Control V. All right, and now on a separate layer, I'm going to draw her eyebrows. Okay, and curse it. It does appear to me, guys, I hate to say this, but it appears to me that all pressure sensitivity has been lost. I've seen that happen from very, very rarely, but from time to time with Krita. This is actually a good example of what I was kind of ranting about when I killed the live stream is, I mean, look at what we have here. It's kind of what I was talking about. All I did was install Tahoma2d, and now all of a sudden the tablet interaction with Krita is broken somehow. So it's very, very strange. All right, so now I'm going to hit Control S, or I'm sorry, Control A, Control C, and then I'm going to come back here, and hopefully this will work. I'm going to hit the S key so I'm in selection mode, and I'm going to hit Control V, but now as you can see, the eyebrows are there, and they're selected. Why the heck they're too small, I don't really know. That's a bit strange. But I'm just going to stretch them up. That's fine. Go like that. But now I'm going to take these eyebrows and I'm going to pop them up here above her head. Okay? Say, oh, what are you doing that for? You'll see. Okay, then I'm going to come back here. And I'm going to hit the X key. Create mesh. And as you can see now, the eyebrows are included in that mesh. Hang on a second. Yes. Okay, so we've got this one. And it's still got that little artifact we're going to have to fix, but that's okay. So what we're doing is we're deleting the old mesh and we're replacing it with the new mesh. Okay, so we do have that one little fix we have to do. But now, her eyebrows are up there, and we're going to use bones to control them. It actually works pretty well, but it's like any puppet animation or modeling and rigging situation. It does require a little bit of setup. So now I'm going to go into Edit Mesh. And we need to look at it, obviously. So this is the this is actually, I've never had this happen before. This is a little strange, but for some reason the mesh generation sort of missed. Okay, so then we're going to go into build skeleton mode, and I'm going to turn the background off so it's not distracting us. All right, so here, there's our skeleton, and what we have to do is create this sort of utility branch over here, up and above, from which we are going to create a controller situation for our eyebrows. Now the eyebrows typically are going to want to be able to move up and down and bend a little bit. So I'm thinking that's probably going to work okay. And so this bone becomes our controller to move the eyebrows in general, and then these smaller nodes become the manner in which we go ahead and do further characterization with the eyebrows. So I'm going to turn off keep distance, And so now what I can do is just stretch this down here, kind of rotate this around, and put her eyebrows in position. And now, going forward, I have the ability to animate her eyebrows, you know, in whatever manner I wish. Now, the problem we do have here is that these two keys don't really work anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and redo them. Okay, so let's turn our background back on, and we'll turn the mesh off just so we... This is where that preference would be useful. And for now, we're going to turn keep distance back on. Preference meaning I want to be able to work with the plastic tool but not see the mesh, just because it's a distraction. And I don't remember what the setting is. There's a way to do that. Maybe it's up somewhere up here. Show mesh right there. Boom. Okay, there we go. Problem solved. All right, so let's save everything. Save everything. Okay. And so now what TNR is going to do, let me see something here. Okay. I made a strategic error. I need to redo this. I got to redo the skeleton. Here's why. This was kind of silly of me, but really, this whole eyebrow branch should actually be a child of this bone. So that when you rotate her head a little bit, the eyebrows carry on with it. Okay, not a big deal. Let's edit. Let's go into build skeleton mode, and we're just gonna redo this. Delete that. Delete that. Delete that. So we probably should turn the background back off. And I wish there was a way to remap the linkage, but there isn't. At least I'm not aware of it. So what we really wanted to do was this. Pull this around and just do the same thing we just did. There we go. So now, if we animate, as you can see, that works properly. Now, one other thing I want to do is I want to create a little bit of protection for her skull around these edges, so that when her, like when she bends at the neck or something, we don't want her face like squishing around, okay? So there's that. And now what we do is we go into animate mode, we turn off keep distance, and we'll just pull this probably down to there. And now we'll turn keep distance back on, and I want to make sure things are moving as advertised. And they are. Everything looks really good. Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty satisfactory. So, what did we have before? We said she perks up. We turned off keep distance, and we just kind of went, woo! And actually, before I do that, let's turn keep it distance back on. And let's duplicate this key. So Control C, Control V. That way, when we re-stretch it back to its original position, we're actually putting it exactly where it was before. Okay. And by the way, we have another problem. Unbelievably. Yep, we got to go like this and like this. We've got to... For this animation, we don't want constant interpolation. We want to go back to linear. Because we do want it to interpolate between these positions. So Slight change there. Okay, so keep distance, turn that off, and now we can have her bounce up a little bit, and what we should see is boop, boop. Excellent. Cool. And I am curious though, if we change the interpolation back to constant, I wonder if it would kind of toggle between them to where this has linear interpolation, because mostly with the eyebrows you normally would want a constant interpolation. But anywho, alright, I'm checking up here and it appears that everything's pretty quiet insofar as the stream is concerned. According to YouTube, there's one concurrent viewer, and I don't even know if that's actually me. Okay, so that's good. That looks good. And what I was going to do here is basically play around with I'm going to switch this back to constant interpolation and see what happens. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to go boop. Let's kind of mush that around a bit. And let's see what happens. So yeah, linear, and then boop. Alright, and then I'm gonna say, I think what I want to do is probably switch this back now. Okay, and that's linear interpolation. So, okay. So the interpolation is actually baked into, if you will, the baked into the keys themselves. So cutting and pasting, you get, even though I'm set to constant interpolation right now, if I cut and paste one of these keys that were linear interpolated, then they're still going to do linear interpolation. Ba-doom. Okay. I think that's that. I think I'm going to render this and cut it into the show and see what we have. So again, we've solved the alpha problem around the edges. And this is shot number 510. This is way too long. Let me see here. Okay. Oh yeah, I see. Doo-doom. Yeah, I'll take that. And so I think we'll go to 42 and call it good. Boom. Control Shift R. So that's rendering, and now we can cut it into the show and see what we got. Excellent, excellent, excellent. 510. Up here, and there it is. Smack that into the shell. We don't want resampling, and see what we get. I'll just jump back here because this is going to play back full screen anyway, so. Leave us. Okay, that's weird. Wow. Did you guys see what just happened? Wow. Okay, now I'm freaked out. Now I'm a little freaked out about this whole so far positive upgrade to Tahoma 1.2. The animation of her eyes is gone. I'm going to assume that's my mistake. That is weird. Look at that. The eyes are... I'll re-render it and see what happened. We got 42 frames here. But... yeah, this is... this is terrible. This is terrible. This is not good at all. This is very, very bad. Because I can't say with 100% certainty. Again, if anybody that was watching the live stream, an hour ago, I was making the point that whenever we do a software upgrade, there's always these trade-offs that you hope won't exist, where the benefits that come with the upgrade come with all kinds of drawbacks that you definitely didn't see coming. And again, you hope that won't happen. But look, what I'm seeing here is absolutely unprecedented. I've never seen this in any version of Tahoma or OpenToonz. So now I'm going to assume that what's going on here is that restarting Tahoma will solve it. Okay, because oftentimes that does happen. So we've saved everything, so let's just close this up and rerun Tahoma, and then the odds are it'll render perfectly. But if we're able to put in animation with the Animate tool and then have that animation just be discarded and not show up in your final render, especially when it's all here, that would be a really, 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 really big problem. Like, deal buster. And again, absolutely, again, all of the animation of her eyes is gone. It will not render it. Wow. Okay, I'm not gonna launch into a rant. I'm gonna assume that there's something I'm missing. If I hit Control R and actually pre-render it, as you can see there, the eye animation is present. Okay. So save images. There it is. So we'll save over that. And so if this works, it would be, what it would mean is that it would suggest, I should say, that the benefits of setting output settings, one of the biggest selling points for me of Tahoma2d over Krita, is the ability to have your render settings set into the program or into the scene so that you can go in, make adjustments over time, maybe come back to a shot you did 3 weeks ago, and instantly just hit Control-Shift-R and it updates in my edit. This doesn't completely break that, but it pretty much breaks it, because then I would have to hit Control-R and then you got the explicit next step of saving the images. So what happened here? Now it worked. Okay, her eyes are moving. If we come back here and hit Control-Shift-R, what would be horrible, horrible, horrible is if now this has been overwritten. I'll turn on the big preview again. Okay, so we established that we were able to get the the image sequence to render properly. And then again, I hit Control-Shift-R to just like auto render it, and indeed what it did was it overwrote the image sequence with that animation gone. So what we've discovered is not a small bug. This is not a small bug. This is a major, huge, oh my god, really? The save and render option in the program is broken now in Tahoma 1.2? That does appear to be the case. Now, you can do a bunch of testing, obviously, but The testing would require loading up other scenes that have animation with the Animate tool and re-render them to see if the animation data gets thrown out. So if anybody, right now there's nobody watching this live stream, so my usual tribe is not around and I can't ask anyone if they have any insight as to what's going on here. But at a glance, we have in Tahoma 1.2 a bug that is not small. It's a bug that's disastrous, especially if it's not consistent, because then you don't know. Yeah, maybe your animation will render, and maybe it won't. We just don't know. You know, it could be that's the case. I cannot even freaking imagine what would be. I can't even imagine what kind of spaghetti you would have to have in your code such that rendering this way works perfectly. So again, it's just one extra step. You just have to go like this. And by the way, if rendering it that way respects the settings that you've put in your output settings, in other words, if it respects these settings, then again, it's not that big of a deal, because you're gonna, I mean, it's literally one mouse click, but it is a little disconcerting because it means that rendering vis-a-vis this dialogue and rendering into a window are literally invoking two different bits of code. You would have to have two bits of code that are doing the same thing in two different ways, which is, of course, one of the biggest programming no-nos there are. They created an acronym for it. It's the word DRY. Don't repeat yourself. You don't have the same you don't have the same exact operation being implemented in two different ways, because theoretically the only difference between those two ways of doing it is the fact that this has a pop-up dialog, which doesn't even pop up when you just render directly. So let's see what happens if we actually go save and render through the dialog. Now it's pre-computing. Okay, now that's interesting. If this works, I'll bet you it's going to work. I'll bet you it's going to be okay now. What that means is that, and this is not a big deal, it means that Tahoma needs that first render to calculate what it's going to render. And then thereafter, it'll probably work. You watch. I'll bet you this is going to work. Nope, it didn't. It didn't. So, Jeremy Bullock, if you're out there, dude, this is a disaster. This is not a small thing. A render. It's so stupid that I can't even. It's funny. It's like so ridiculous. It's funny. What would you have to do programmatically to create a situation where the animation data gets thrown out, so it plays back properly, it plays back in full rendered preview mode properly, it renders into a window properly, but when you do the thing that really saves you all kinds of time, which is just go Control-Shift-R and forget about it, it just goes, then it doesn't work anymore. Unbelievable. And Soda Pop's going to be out there going, well, Dave, I keep telling you to use Clip Studio Paint. Oh, my goodness. Really? That's what we get? WTF in a big way. But guess what? It is not a deal breaker in the sense that I can't get my work done. I can always just go like this. Boo-doop. I wonder if I just hit save without clicking on it. Yep. Nope, you have to click, so click. So there's 2 clicks required, no big deal. We'll live with that. And it renders way slower, notice. It renders way slower, so that is strange. I'm going to kill the program and reopen it one more time just to see. God, I so didn't want to spend my time today finding software bugs. I just want to get my work done, you know? I just want to just knock out my scenes and be... Wow. Upgrade to Tahoma 1.2. Do it. Hurry. Go. It's amazing. It's awesome. Yep. No eye movement. Unbelievable. Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Centenari is out there going, Dave, you seem like an entitled, spoiled brat. How could you complain about that? I'm with you, dude. Trust me, believe me. I so don't want to. I so don't want to sit here and bitch. I really don't. Okay, we're gonna keep moving forward. So that shot is done. So that's good. Just going back here and checking my edit. It looks to me like from yesterday to today we're around 11 seconds, and the next shot is a close-up of the prints. So I'm gonna go ahead and oh my goodness. Okay. So we gotta get this close up of the print. So I think we'll just copy that and let's just create a new Tahoma scene. Control V. Oops, there's nothing to paste. How can there be nothing to paste? Okay, so this might be another Tahoma 1.2-ism. I've cut and pasted directly from Vegas at least a dozen times in the last couple days with Tahoma 1.1. But here I hit Control V. Now it's going to work. Okay, good. Now it's going to work. Okay, cool. So let's just scale this guy up a bit. And we'll just use that as a basis for some ink and paint. Man. B key. Let's turn on the smoothing about halfway. And I should probably reference my wide shot just to make sure. Yeah. So he's basically got this fancy schmancy decorative wingdinger. Yeah. On his costuming. And fortunately, other than the bizarre rendering bug, everything in Tahoma2d version 1.2 seems to be actually working pretty well. Zoom out a little bit. And actually, this is kind of wrong. Okay, stop. Oh, okay, we're in segment mode. I want to be in actually freehand mode. Okay, B key. So yeah, this is gonna sort of come down like that, like that. He's got this very nice decorative thingamajiggies. Got these little, again, they're called wingdingers. Sort of shoulder paddy, kind of little decorative things on his costume. Okay, cool. I think we'll leave his mouth gosh, we keep running into the same issue actually. So the problem is that I know I'm going to want to animate him with the plastic tool, but you cannot draw over the plastic tool animation without in the X sheet. I'm just going to ponder that one for half a second. Make this a little higher. Well, I guess I'll just do it the way I would do it in Krita, which is you you do everything, you animate everything. This is probably what I should be doing generally. Animate everything, and the plastic tool is always the very last thing you do. So we'll just kind of put a little activity there. And then the question becomes, do we want to put his, for animation and expression purposes, do we want to actually put his face in a separate layer, separate level? Okay, let's add some colors. Hit the fill tool, fill that, and change that to, it's kind of a muted, muted leather-ish color. This is going to be his costume, which is tilted somewhat towards the royal purple type of color. This is going to be pretty much white-ish gray, but with a slight leaning towards the blue end of the spectrum. Not much though, it's really the soldiers that are more blue. He's more almost white. Okay, we'll go ahead and add a bit of a shadow color in there. We need a gold color for the little decorations. Yep, that's looking pretty good, and obviously we need a flesh tone. So Prince is a pretty standard flesh tone color. And then what we'll do, as I said, was we'll put the, actually I'll put the sketch above. Yeah, unfortunately the sketch is opaque, so I'm going to have to turn it down. Okay. And then here what we'll do is we'll just create a new level, just so we have the ability to animate this in whatever manner we need to. And then we'll add some secondary animation with the plastic tool downstream. So, you know, really, I don't know. I think eyes, we'll call this eyes, and we'll insert another. Now, by the way, actually here, we should, sorry, wrong color. And by the way, his outline color should be lightened a bit. But we should probably put some indication of his nose here on his skull, as opposed to in the other level. Okay, so this is going to be his mouth. And then we'll go in and make adjustments as needed. Hold on. This should really be, again, in his... He's kind of got that Kevin Bacon type nose and hollowed out cheeks. So yeah, he's going to be kind of loosely based on a Kevin Bacon type character. Okay, so then the eyes, let's do, let's hit the B key, rotate, rotate, I don't even know what I'm saying here, people. Fill that, and then kick it up to white. One thing though too with the prince is he actually does have a little bit of color on his eyes, so I'm just going to go like this, a little bit of blue, or as Bill Alexander used to say, a little bit of blue. Okay, so he's feeling a little out of place today, as you can see, and this might be a very good time to save our work. I'm going to check a couple things as it pertains to, you know what, I'll bet you this live stream is not public. Yep, sure enough. Okay, sorry guys. Jeez. Today is one of those days that has been replete with software hooby-jooby. And so if you want to, so at this point, I've gone an hour only to realize that the live stream was actually not public, which is kind of stupid on my part, so forgive me for that. Basically, just to recap what was covered, number one, Tahoma2d 1.2, I downloaded it. It's just a zip file. You just drag and drop it, the Tahoma2d folder, out of the zip file onto your system, and it works. So it's very portable. I love that. Number two, the function to import your settings from Tahoma 1.1 under the preferences, right here, import preferences, that worked pretty much flawlessly. So almost all good on Tahoma 1.2. I'm liking what I'm seeing. The only issue, I'll just say it now because the live stream, I believe, is in fact public now. The only caveat is that I uncovered an unprecedented problem that I've never seen before in any version of OpenToonz or Tahoma, where, let's see, I'm going to save all and save this as 511, where Tahoma2d would not render the animation from a level that was animated with just the plain old Animate tool. It played back fine. I see the animation. If I hit Control R and render into a window and then save it, it saves it properly. The animation was rendered. Everything worked except the one thing I use 1,000 times a day, which is in your output settings, to just hit Control Shift R and have it just render in the background instantly. As far as I can tell, in Tahoma 1.2, if you can believe it, that appears from the first scene I worked with to be broken. It literally does not work anymore. What happened was it rendered, but what rendered included everything except levels that were animated with the Animate tool. So in every other way, the animation shows up, it works, everything's fine, but when you do just a behind the scenes render with Control Shift R, that animation disappeared. So pretty crazy. So if there's anybody out there at this moment, chime in, will you? Let me know that you're out there. Okay, yeah, that was a silly mistake on my part right there. I need to mute that a little bit more. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to a YouTube window and just see if this live stream does seem to be working. Yep, it seems to be working. Okay, so who's watching? Let me know, guys. So to Soda Pop, if Soda Pop's out there, you know, I took your advice, and as I say, most of what I'm seeing here with Tahoma 2D 1.2, I would say is all good, but that rendering glitch that I covered in the first hour here while I was doing this other scene is pretty bad. Okay, so Darren, since you're here, I'm going to show you this because this is, you know, it's not disastrous, but it's pretty bad. It is actually pretty bad. So here we go. The last shot I did, I will say the good news is, I'll just recap because I know Darren's out here, and so I'm going to recap some stuff that I covered in the first hour when I was inadvertently just right here live streaming with my video being unlisted, which meant you guys couldn't see it. Well, now you can see it, and I'm here. So hey, Varia, welcome to the party. Okay, so here's the deal. This problem that we've seen with OpenToonz going back for years, that involves artifacting that appears with imagery that has been exchanged from other programs, obviously Krita in my case, especially if you go in and draw into them using the paint tools in Tahoma. So Tahoma is dancing between native painting versus just an imported picture. When you do that, you tend to wind up getting these artifacts around the edges where it doesn't quite know how to deal with the edges, and simply applying the pre-multiply doesn't solve the problem. Okay, so you can pre-multiply and it does help, but it doesn't really get rid of the artifacting. But I figured out a way to get rid of the artifact, as you can see. It's only useful at render, but I mean, who cares? So here's the solution. If you guys have ever bumped into this, this is the solution. I just loaded an adjust levels plugin, and then what I did was I just clamped the alpha input. So let's put this in render mode like that. Also significantly, this is getting a little discouraging here, folks. Golly, this is getting discouraging today. Okay, as you can see from this render that the problem doesn't exist. Okay, so I've got to make this clear. Jeez. Okay, I solved the problem in Tahoma 1.1. Okay, and the solution was that you clamp the alpha input, and it just makes the alpha tighten into your character, and it gets rid of the problem. Okay, so trust me on this. That works. It worked. But now that I'm in Tahoma 1.2, I'm making adjustments right now to the plugin, and there it seems to be having an effect. But maybe it's because of the, let me check this just to be clear. Let me turn the pre-multiply off. Okay, fine. For what it's worth, what I'm observing here favors Tahoma 1.2, because what it looks like's going on is Tahoma 1.2 actually knows how to deal with a pre-multiplied alpha edge, and every other version of Tahoma or OpenToonz didn't. So if you didn't have the pre-multiply on, this seemed to solve it. And as you can see, it is solving it. Now it's working properly. So this is actually very good news. What it means is that this, for the first time ever, actually works. There you go. The pre-multiply, oh my God. Okay, so for all my complaining, this is a big deal too. The pre-multiplication actually works in Tahoma. I would assume probably OpenToonz 1.5 as well, but that's really good. What that means is that this plugin that I added in the schematic actually is not needed, I don't think. Let me delete it out of there. And indeed, that's right. The edges look good now. So, okay, so Jeremy Bullock, if you're out there, kudos, buddy. That's the good news. Now, unfortunately, friends, okay, that's the good news. Now I've got to tell you the bad news, because the bad news is, for me, it's pretty bad. Because I keep loading shots into Tahoma, making small changes to past shots, and re-rendering them. And by the way, it does also appear, for what it's worth, that the proper handling of pre-multiplication only helps you at render, because you can see the problem is still there in the quick preview. So I can live with that. Here's the problem that's way, way, way bigger. If we look at this shot, if we animate it, you can see that, actually, let's get out of preview mode. Okay, so you can see that her eyes are looking around, okay? So her eyes are actually on a separate level, and they're animated with the Animate tool, okay? Put a pin in that. Now, if I hit Control-R and I render into a new window, which in practice, I never do. I don't ever do that. What I do is I set up my render output settings, and I hit Control-Shift-R, and it renders in the background. As you can see, let's let this play. We'll just loop it. Okay, so now actually, this is the first time this has happened. Okay, first time this has happened today. In the first hour, it didn't go this way. In the first hour, if I hit Control-R and rendered into a new window, all the animation was there, and then I could save it this way. I could just hit this and save over my image sequence, and there you go. But if I hit Control Shift R, which I do, as I said, I do it 100 times a day. Now we go back to our show, and what we see is that the levels that were animated with the Animate tool, all the animation in the render has disappeared. All the animation of her irises is gone. Okay? Now, when I was doing it before I opened up the live stream, what was happening was the playback was fine. There you see the eyes animate. If you hit Control R, they would animate. So I had a way to render and still save the images, even though I couldn't do the thing I normally do again over and over every day, which is just hit Control Shift R. But now it's even worse. Now it appears that, yeah, it's all gone. I have closed and reopened Tahoma2d multiple times. It doesn't matter. So there's something. So I hate to tell you this, guys, but for all the wonderful things about Tahoma 1.2, as I was ranting about this morning, I was reticent to make the upgrade because every time I make an upgrade, it turns out that there's some small secret thing you just didn't see coming that kind of renders, haha, pun intended, renders all the benefits of the upgrade basically useless because something else is so broken that this is a big freaking deal. Okay? Animation that doesn't render? I mean, whoever even heard of that? I've never seen it in any version of OpenToonz. I have a vague recollection of something about it at some point in the past. Yeah, and Darren's keys are rendered okay. Of course they are. So I'll try it one more time. This is so strange, though. There is no version of Tahoma or OpenToonz where I've ever seen this. And so yet again, all Dave wants to do is just get his work done. Dave just wants to get going on his show and just do his thing, right? That's all I want. I just want to get my work done. But no, we got some bizarre, absolutely insane, obscure bug. And again, here, yep, nothing, including an act of God, will cause those eyes to render. They animate, but at render time, the animation is boop, thrown away. Can you explain it? No, I can't explain it. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna solve this the Darren T way. Which is that we're gonna just duplicate this. I'm gonna insert a new frame. I'm just gonna drag the eyes in here. So now there's another, yeah, little bit of a problem we have. But okay, so what I'm gonna do is okay, hold on, let me see where these eyes are. Okay, yeah, cool. All right, so I'm gonna have to turn this off, really overcome the issue by redoing it. I'm gonna go into my preferences as I did before and change. Okay, my keyframe interpolation is set to constant, so that's good. So now let me see what she did here. Okay, so this was actually a duplicate keyframe. So this one, okay. So now what I'm going to do is turn this back on, and we're just going to move those down there. I probably should turn that off so it's not distracting us. Okay, and then we'll move it back up. Whoops. And her eyes dart down a little bit. I'm betting this will in fact solve the problem. Okay, that's it. And then I'm just going to delete the original eyeballs level and save all. Boy, this is very, very strange. Okay, so on live playback, everything seems to work. Let's just go right for the brass ring and hit Control Shift R and see what happens. let's just see what happens. Okay, here it is. And all the animation of the eye is still gone. I'll be showing through. And of course, they're rendering properly in the initial frame. It's just the animation that's not showing up. The eyes are being rendered. They're just not animating. So we have the head, and behind it we have the eyeballs, or the irises, and then behind that we've got a little level that's just that, so that we've got the whites of the eyes, right? Okay, and so yeah, quite disastrous, because now this actually worked earlier. It worked earlier where if I rendered it this way, the animation was preserved, and now it's gone forever. This is, you know, this is a this is not a small problem. This is a catastrophic, oh my God, I can't even use Tahoma level problem. Because how are you going to use a program where you maybe will render your animation, maybe, but maybe not, maybe not. We'll just see, you know. Maybe we'll render it sometimes. Maybe it'll render this way but not that way. You know, wow. So I'm a little freaked out, people. I'm a little freaked out. So what do you do? You know, what do you do? I have absolutely no idea. I have no fix. Darren, if you get a chance to pass it on to Jeremy, I'm not going to. I'm not going to do it. I have stuff to do. No, this is terrible. But yeah, Soda Pop, if you're out there, I told you. I said, you know what? I've never seen it fail. Whatever the benefit is of the great upgrade, it never fails to turn out that the upgrade comes at a very brutal cost. Thank you, Darren. Brutal. So yeah, that's a sufficiently rattling problem to me to make me just go, oh my God, I think I'm just gonna not just quit. You know, just quit for a day. I mean, what do you do? I would actually have to download and reinstall Tahoma 1.1 and hope everything works. So there you go. Okay, this can be deleted. It's no longer needed, and I'm gonna create a vector layer. Let's see here. Hit the B key. I have to redo those. I just can't even believe, you know. What do you do? Yeah, it's like the only conclusion you can draw. Okay, okay. Oh, I know you can run them side by side. What happened was exactly what you could expect, which is that I put in 1.2, made sure everything was working perfectly, everything was fine, everything was golden, and it was, and I'm like, okay, that's it, see you later, Tahoma 1.1, and then 2 seconds later, this problem emerged and showed itself. And of course, I mean, we're talking about an issue that is so startlingly egregious, so utterly unacceptable that you just would never expect to see something that ridiculous in a million years. Like, no, your software is not that broken. Couldn't be. Well, it is. So, what do you do? But I respect your idea, Darren, and so let's go check it out. It could be. I mean, I would love to discover that that's the problem. But remember, I mean, the only way we could really test that would be to get rid of the eyes completely. Okay, so let's do that. and we'll do a render this way, and we'll see that clearly by getting rid of that level, there's nothing occluding the eyes. Okay, if we go into our schematic, structurally everything's just going through the plastic tool. And if there was something occluding them, they would be occluded all the time. They would just be not rendering, as opposed to it's just the animation that's not happening. That's why it's way beyond bizarre. There are no effects. You know, there's no effects here. I deleted the only effect there was because we didn't need it anymore. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, the animation's there. It's animating just fine, but it won't render. I mean, how does one make any progress on a project where it's like having a demo version? It's like having a demo version of software where it's like, yeah, you get to do everything you can possibly do with the software, including save your work, but the one thing you can't do is render it, because if you render it, you need to buy the software. It's kind of like that. I've seen that, you know, with software. Of course, that's not what's going on here, but no, that is a catastrophic, massive. Can't describe how bad that is. There's no describing how bad that is. That is a deal buster. I can't use the software level problem. My God, unbelievable. But it is what it is. So there you go. There's the, multiply that over top of column 1. And we'll set the opacity level to 0.12. It's kind of the typical shadow level. And okay, this is interesting too. Okay, we have no plastic tool. Okay, yeah, now that I forgot. So if anybody wonders what the heck just happened, this is an obscure problem too that if I hadn't bumped into it before, you would find very confusing. So you have this level that's being used for shadows, and in the schematic it's being composited over top of this level. Well, because of the stacking order, for whatever reason, because of the way the compositing happens, if this level is to the right of some other levels, those other levels will all of a sudden not show up at all. So that's basically what I wanted to do. Now, that's really not correct. The truth of the matter is I should actually combine the eyes with the body level, so that the shadows are affecting the edges of the eyes. I think for the moment I'm gonna look the other way on that one, but so that's not a bug, that's a feature. Okay, so so we do need to do a quick and dirty background. So what time is that? 1:20. Oh my gosh, this day is just slipping away, baby. Guess what we want is a raster level, right? So we click the hotkey to create a raster level. Ba-doop, boop, ba-doop, doop. And this is going to be, I'm actually just going to fill it with black. Actually, you know what's a better idea is let's fill it with the sky. Boom. Okay, so yeah, we'll put the sky behind him. That should probably be a little more blue, as Bill Alexander would say. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we've got to get sort of a, well, I mean, pink is the local color, but it's going to be pretty muted here in the background, so we don't want to be in render mode, by the way. And so what I'm going to do is grab this brush, I'm just doing that so that I can sample the color. Beep. Okay, and actually by drawing a line right there, I should be able to just fill that. And then I'm going to hit the B key and fill that. Excuse me. So now this, I'm going to put this back to 0. It's got a little bit more bite to it. And so the one thing that I lost with the Tahoma 1.2 transition was the palettes. The global palette for raster levels did not port over, but I mean, not a big deal. Okay, so we're going to go with this, and now we'll just take our value down a little bit. Boy, in that, I mentioned that yesterday, your value shifts really need to be quite small, just enough so that the circle is in a different place. Pretty crazy. And I'm just going to do this so that this is allowed to catch a little bit of the sun kind of sneaking through. And frankly, that's probably all I need to do. I'm going to hit Control tilde and look at this in rendered mode. Yeah, not too bad. Now what I do want to do also though is, and this underscores why doing this actually makes more sense. Because what I want to do is I want to have a second layer of shadows that's going to just backlight him. Now we could actually do that a different way, come to think of it. Let me do this for a half second. Let's see if we can do this as a post-production effect. Okay, so if we're going to go this route, what we would want to do here is essentially ramp down the values of pretty much all of his colors, because we're going to wind up using a body highlight effect to rim light it. So the flesh tone as well. Just kind of get this guy in the dark a little bit more. And the eyes, yeah, kind of the same situation. Just basically dial it down until it feels about right. Okay, I guess the only other thing would be maybe this color could be ramped down slightly. Okay, so then what we'll do is in our schematic, our FX schematic, we're going to do a body highlight on probably this whole thing multiplied together. Actually, let's add it to that. So let's go to light, body highlight. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. As far as the color goes, I think it's pretty good. Actually, the blur level, everything about it looks pretty good. Now, I would say that the background, I'm gonna just do, I guess we'll do some curves and see if we can, see, this is where the tools in Krita are a little better, because we have the ability to like do a hue shift with the curves. But yeah, that's better. That looks better. Wow, that looks a lot better. Nice. Okay, cool. So we'll go with that. So let's stretch the background. And then the question now becomes, do we want to also add a glow? I guess actually, come to think of it, isn't the, since I'm using Tahoma 1.2, we should have that new effect everyone was talking about. Which I assume is probably under light. Bloom. Let's do a bloom. Whoa, that's a bloom. Okay. The size looks okay. Actually, what we want to do, this is wrong. What we should do is put a bloom on the whole thing, actually, and then see what we get. So let's give it a crack. All right, so bloom. Okay, now we got to turn this way down. Alpha rendering? I don't know what that does. So let's start sneaking the gain up, and oh boy, it does not take much. And this seems to have animated it. So it would appear to me that the settings for your bloom are pretty touchy. In other words, if you go past a very modest setting, you're like 80% of the range is pretty much unusable, actually. So it seems like maybe some adjustment on the scale that's used there might be in order. But let's see here. I don't really love the defocusing. It is a very modern looking effect, though. It's pretty cool looking, and that helps sharpen things up. Oh boy, that's interesting. Definitely an interesting effect. Let's go 0.4 and see what happens. So you almost have to put in the levels manually. Oh geez, 0.5. You almost have to put them in manually just to get something that's usable. But I would say, this is what I would say about the bloom effect. Based on the controls and based on what it actually appears to be doing, I would guess that rolling your own bloom the way I showed, I think 2 days ago, actually probably makes more sense if you're going to do the bloom thing. Because what you're really wanting is just an additional glow back here, and then a little bit of glow that bleeds over top of the character. So if I was going to do that, what I would do is, let's actually kill our output. Let me show how I would do this. What I would do is I'd say, okay, we're going to take our whole shot and let's pipe it through a curves. Okay, we'll pipe that through the curves, and now we'll go ahead and do this. But what we're going to do is we're going to then really clamp this down. We're really going to clamp this down, because all we want to do, all we really want to see is the stuff that's highlighted. Okay? Now again, it would be nice if we had the ability to yeah, I'm going to smack that up too. It'd be nice if we had the ability to tweak the saturation here as well, but we don't, so that's okay. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to image adjust. Where's the saturation scale? I believe that's what I want. And then we're going to take the saturation from 0 and push it back like so. I think that would be okay. Alright, that's the next step. Then the next step would be to blur it. Okay, so we'll just stick in a blur. Okay, and then what we're going to do, this blur probably wants to be something like 60. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just composite that blur over top of the actual shot. Okay, so here we would go layer blending INO. My thinking is probably overlay mode. This is actually going to be the background though, and this is going to be the foreground. And so there you go. There's your effect, with the caveat that okay, first of all, I'm not sure. Let me try a couple of these different ones. Let's try let's go with either additive or screen. Where is screen? I guess we could go with add. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so then what we'll do is here we're going to add a image adjustment, and let's adjust the levels. And then what we're going to do is actually ramp down the alpha output on that particular plugin. And so now if you look closely, you can see that this is almost precisely the effect that we were seeing a minute ago. And it's a little more controllable, truthfully, because if we put this in here, we should be able to then, you know, we dial in the bloom the way we like it, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, yeah, but we want to, we'll jump back to here. What we want to do is now dial in the contrast so that his face isn't getting washed out the way it was. So let's just see what we have here. I'm kind of surprised I can't seem to get his face to disappear, unfortunately. There, we're getting there. Okay, so that's probably going to be better. Okay, so now what's going to happen is our bloom is going to be here, and it's going to be around this outside edge. So now we just plug that in, and indeed that's pretty much what happens, although it doesn't look much different to me. And because of the issues we were seeing with Tahoma earlier, it's leading me to wonder if everything is actually updating the way one would expect. I'm going to really, really, really clamp that down. Okay. I think that's about the best I can do. Okay, and then yeah, that's better. Okay, so there you go. Now we can adjust the levels. So I kind of made the point the other day that the bloom effect has always been present in OpenToonz and Tahoma. You just have to know how to do it, and obviously this gives us a lot of control. If we actually ramp up the blur to like 100 pixels, I'm doing that on the other screen. Okay, yes, okay, I'll do that here in just a second. Sorry for the delay, Darren, as I've been a little distracted here with the bloom effect. And yeah, and to be fair, this level adjustment's actually not needed either, because you can just adjust the opacity of the overlay. So there it's not there, and there it's cranking up. And as you can see, the more you crank it up, the more you can really, really dial it in with a bigger blur. And now we're getting into what really looks like a bloom, the way people would expect a bloom to look. So no bloom, little bloom. I like it. Okay, so now, Darren, to your point, let's do it. The simplest solution, or the most analogous to what I had before, would be to just animate his mouth. Okay, that's his eyes. Oh yeah, well obviously it says eyes, doesn't it? So here's his mouth. So what I'll do is hit the animate tool and just hello. Okay. Why are we animating the camera, I wonder? How did I get the camera selected? I don't know. Come over here. I'm on that level, or layer. And look at this. Okay, I mean, as long as we're talking about bugs all over the place, here's another one. Right on. Whatever you say there, Tahoma. Okay, so there we go. His mouth's moving around. We see that. And now what we're going to do is we're on 511. So let's go to render settings and make sure we've got everything set up here properly, and we do. And so save and render. Okay, that rendered fast. We'll give it that. I'm also going to jump over here, and here it renders. Okay, so that's good. Let's jump over to Vegas, and we'll pop this up into the show, even though we're probably going to have to redo it because the length of the ultimate animated shot is probably going to be different. But just for now, we'll get it in here. Open that up. 8 frames a second. 511. Drag it in. Properties. Disable resample. And now did it, and it did. So now, you know, we're gonna pretend it didn't happen. We're just gonna pretend it didn't happen. I'm not sure what the fix is, because the last time I opened that scene, I completely reproduced the level with the eye animation, and it still didn't render. So it's a really, really strange problem that, as of the last time I opened the project, there was no way to solve it. So it is definitely a little concerning. Definitely a little concerning. Kind of a lot, actually. But it's going to be tricky to reproduce, because as Darren suggested, probably what I need to do is just send him the scene file. Glad to hear it, Maria. Okay, so I'm going to give you run assignment. If you're so inclined, could you try moving the soldier using the Animate tool? See if he renders with movement. I would say, and hello Nitesh, Yadav. If we really, really, really want to match everything, let me see. Let's do this. Let me hit Z a few times. I'm going to put that animation back in there. Now what I'm going to do is, if we want to duplicate what we were doing in the other shot, we really need to do the plastic tool. So let's go ahead and set up a quick and dirty plastic tool situation, and then map the other levels through it, because we did have that going on in the other shot. So we'll just kind of keep the skeleton on the simple side. And then what we need to do is go in here to the state schematic, and we're going to want to pipe literally everything except the background through the plastic tool. Okay, so plastic tool, the shadow's going through the plastic tool, the eyes are going through the plastic tool, and the mouth. So everything stays together, right? Okay, as you can see, the animation is working. I'm going to introduce now some animation with the plastic tool. Okay, there it is, and I'm hitting Control-Shift-R, and we'll jump back over here and see what happened. And it seems to be working. Everything seems to be okay. So, you know what? I'm just going to, sorry, I didn't transition over here, my bad. So you can see everything is working. I don't think the shot looks the greatest ever, so there's a little work involved here, but I would say that, let me ask you this, Darren. Do you have, is it enough to send you the TNZ file, or do you need all the constituent assets? And how do you, that's something I've never done. I've never bundled up a TNZ file in such a way that all of the constituent images and everything are all included together, and I don't know of a way to do that. It would be a wonderful addition, actually, to OpenToonz and Tahoma, is to be able to save your project as an actual bundle. So if there's a way to do that, and you're able to put something in the chat to indicate that, that would probably be helpful. So with the drawings, it would be better. Well, but then what I would need to do is go through, find them all one by one, and just zip them together. Okay, so there's a feature in 1.2 for that. Okay, so fine. I'll save all. Let's just deal with it then. All right, so we're going to open up 510, and this is the one that failed. There's the eye animation. Just for kicks and giggles, I'll just go back one step, and see if it's magically fixed itself. It has not. Okay, so fine. Let's come back here. All right, so there's a feature in 1.2, file, export scene. Okay, so file, export current scene. And then save it to a new project, then save it to a new project in a new location. Ah. So I'm going to save it to the sandbox, which is like the default. But you're saying save it in a new project in a new location. So the new project will be called test, and the new location is going to have to be, oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm going to save it on my computer, L, and we'll put it in the temp folder. Export. So there's that. And then I'm going to jump on my other screen that you all can't see. I'm going to do a quick and dirty reply. Just so you know, Darren, I'm replying to some ancient email from a long time ago. And then what I'm going to do on my other screen is go to my temp folder, and what you've got is, want to be really clear here. Right. So I'm going to take the test folder, and within the test folder we have a scene, and there it is. And so I'm going to take that, and we're going to add it to an archive that's going to be a zip. Boom. Checking the archive, everything looks fine. Okay, and now I'm taking test.zip and I'm dragging and dropping it into an email. It's about 3.5 megabytes, looks like. And I just emailed it to you. So you should be able to actually load it up. And if you load it up and it renders for you, that would be kind of interesting too. As long as we're here, why don't we try it? I mean, let's load a scene. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the My Computer L temp test project scenes and actually load it up from there. And here we should probably see everything the same. Yeah, other than probably this is going to render into the new project. But that's okay. So I'm going to hit Control Shift R. And then I'm going to go back here on the other screen with my image viewer and just see if, I'm just going to scroll through the images and see if the render actually happened properly. So there's 510, there's the render. Okay, there's no animation of the eyes when I rendered it from the temp. So anyway, so it looks like whatever the problem is holding true even in another project entirely. So now I'm just going to go back to recent scene file, and that is going to be 511. And it's obviously got a switch projects. And yeah, if you see or get a different result or something, let me know. That's because that is a really, really weird situation. Okay, go into render mode here real quick, and one thing that is bugging me a bit, first of all, actually, this plastic tool animation is a little wacky too, so I'm going to get rid of that key. Okay, so what I want to do is go into render mode, and then I'm going to pop open the schematic, and this is probably one of the more complicated schematics I've ever done. But that's what happens when you roll your own bloom effect, right? Okay, so the thing I wanted to do here is okay. Body highlights there. That's our shadows. So what I want to do here, and this is complicated. Column 1's the background, by the way. So what I need to do is actually go from here. Well, I mean, the multiply effect really should take the combination of all these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go insert image blending over, and we're going to need these 3 columns, but we want to make sure we get our ordering right. The mouth should be on top, and the eyes should be on top, and the body should obviously be on the bottom. So that worked. Okay, so that took everything about the character and made it so that the shadow is actually being, okay, that was not supposed to happen. Made it so that the shadow is being composited over the entire character with all of his constituent columns. So the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do a color correction on him. So that's going to be image adjust, and I guess we'll make it simple and do adjust levels. So yeah, this is quite a mess. So then that way we can go in here and look at our RGB levels, and what I wanted to do is just kind of ramp them down a bit. Yes, there we go. Now we're starting to look right. And we could ramp our contrast a bit, but no, that's not a good idea. That gets me more to where I wanted to be, I must say. And in fact, not only that, but now that I think about it, it kind of makes me think, why not go ahead and pump up the bloom a bit too while we're here. Yeah. Yeah. Guys, I like that. Clipping mask? Shouldn't matter. Okay. That's cool. So that's how you do a bloom without a bloom effect. Which, for me, I like it better because it did give me quite a bit more control over how the bloom effect worked and how it looked. So, there you go. That's that. You're getting exactly the same. So it proves I'm not insane. Hey, Amar, welcome to the party. I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. So yeah, I'm not crazy. Turns out I'm not crazy. That is a nice bloom effect. I'm actually proud of myself. That's definitely the look I was seeing in my head more. So I'm satisfied with that. Control Shift R. And now if we jump back over to the show, I'm just going to turn on the preview here on the main screen. So now we're going from this to this. Yeah. So as I've mentioned before, the quintessential problem with the plastic tool is that it's very, very often the case that after you've animated something with the plastic tool, what you want is you want this interactive negotiation between animating with the plastic tool versus frames like his eyes or his mouth, where you're going to want to just make a new drawing. Well, the problem is that becomes Um, very problematic because you can't keep the constituent parts of the body in the right position. Eyes level is to go over to the drawing strip, which with the eyes you could kind of get away with because you still have some context, you know, to give you a sense of where things are relative to each other. But with the mouth, it's a little trickier. So, yeah, I may be insane, but I'm not crazy. Actually, the first place I heard that was from the Joker. There's a classic late 1960s episode of Batman called The Joker's Five-Way Revenge, which was drawn quite famously by Neil Adams. And it really represented the pinnacle of Neil Adams' run on Batman. The art is gorgeous in that particular comic book. It's called The Joker's Five-Way Revenge, and I remember in that episode there's one place where Joker said that very thing. He said, I may be insane, but I'm not crazy. So, alright. So, you say, well, okay, what is this problem of which you speak? Well, like right here, I want to put an eye blink, so I really want to edit the eye level. The best solution I've been able to find is you have to visualize. You would have to relegate the plastic tool to only very subtle secondary animation as absolutely required, and then what you need to do is visualize in your mind what you think you're going to do with the plastic tool, and leave everything not piped through the plastic tool until all of your hand-drawn animation is done. There really is no other solution I've ever been able to find. So now what we want to do is we want to animate his mouth or his eyes here, and then turn around and pipe everything back through the plastic tool and add that second layer of animation. So, hey Pen, welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. I haven't been doing voices. I haven't been Mr. Fun like I was earlier. Let's make this fun, though. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to hit the B key, and we're going to draw some new eyes. Now, I am going to turn on some onion skinning, so we can come in here and actually get some fun characterization. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to squint him like this. We're going to keep this loose. As I say, we're going to keep it loose and fun. Okay, so now we're going to stretch that out for... And by the way, one thing else that I'm going to do, I don't know if that's proper English, is I'm going to sneak that down just a little bit. Okay, and then here, I'm going to extend this down one frame, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the B key and draw another drawing. And this one is going to be like a complete exaggeration of this. So I'm going to go like that. And for now, I'm going to turn that level off, the shadow level, so that it's not distracting me. I don't want to be distracted, I say. So we're going to go like that, and then we're going to take the B key. See, now I'm moving fast. Now I'm rocking. Now I'm working, man. I'm having fun. Okay, fill tool. Boom, boom. And then we'll take the V key, which is the paintbrush tool, and give him those blue irises. And then I think we only want that on the screen for one frame. But we need to consider what the animation would be. I just said what the animation would be. What I meant was the animation of his eyebrows. So sorry about that. So in this, whoa, wrong color there, Jack. And here, what I need to do here is I'm going to hit the D key and make this a duplicate, because I don't actually want this to be drawing number 1, because I'm going to change the eyebrows. Now, it's whether you're going to bake your eyebrows in with your eyes is highly questionable. Sometimes it's a good idea, oftentimes it's not a good idea, but it is what it is. So let's pull that baby down to about there. So I'm going to do something like that. Turn off our onion skins. Okay, so the idea is that he's like, okay. So then he says, hello. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, here he is. He's for the first time meeting the girl that he's having to marry. And it's just a real awkward moment, right? Okay, so one thing we do want to do, by the way, is raise the level on those eyes, and same thing with the mouth. Probably needs a up here. And then let's just go ahead and start fixing some things up on this. Okay, so actually I'm going to have him be a lot more blank. And so let's just sneak down here. And right about here, methinks. I like it. Hell, I'm going to go ahead and allow this to be... whoops, that's not what I wanted. Didn't mean to draw in drawing 1. So I'm going to allow an English phoneme to sneak in here. Normally I don't do that. But and I think just for fun, I'll try this. This should be kind of interesting. Just hello. I actually really like that second mouth opening. It's all happening a little too quick though. And we probably need another eye blink in there somewhere. Boom. Yeah, this all happens too quick. So, hello. That second mouth open I find hilarious. I don't know. It would hang open for like half a second there. You just don't know what to think about that. It's like he opens his mouth like he's going to say something, then decides, maybe not. Okay, so if we're going to do that, maybe it could be argued. Okay, so Darren, love to hear what you think. I finished looking through this scene. Do you see anything, or I assume you're looking at the XML, so you're looking for some likely suspects as far as things you've learned in the past might be problematic in an OpenToonz or a Tahoma shot. Okay, yeah. So there's more. There's more. This is what I said about getting leverage. Once this interaction between the prince and Tianara is, you know, it takes a while and it's very awkward. So there's a lot of fun stuff. So yeah. Anyway, you know, whatever you found, Darren. If there's anything there, I'm eager to hear it. So here, what would actually happen, I think, is he would go, I think right about here, I'm going to hit the D key and make a mod on this drawing so that we essentially reverse his eyebrows, basically. So I'm going to hit the E key and just get rid of them. Let's just see how that feels. Okay, and then I'm going to actually make another drawing here, another duplicate. But on this one, I'm going to, I think what we'll do here is, we need to erase everything. I can't find anything in the XML. Okay, I found some strangeness. If you don't parent the eyes to the plastic mesh column, they move fine. If you, okay, you can parent them to any column and they move. Yeah, and that is certainly a workaround. I mean, in this case, to say, well, okay, we're not going to have the benefit of actually piping it through the plastic tool, which means there's a little more step-by-step animation required. That's not that big of a deal. But we're certainly dancing with a similar situation on this scene because he's going to be animated with the plastic tool as well. And the idea that we, that we can't any longer just, parent multiple levels in the plastic tool and expect things to render properly is definitely not ideal. Okay, so here I'm going to say, I think I want to see I'm going to delete that. I want to see this one more time, I think. And then we'll get rid of this. And maybe I'm going to great extremes here in terms of trying to visualize what I'm after. So I've got a similar situation here where I think I want that squinty look smacked back in there. And then this is definitely wrong. I want to go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and put the onion skins in there, and then this is going to be a different, similar to the first drawing. But I'm thinking I want to have something like that going on. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Turn the onion skins back off. Okay, I definitely see a issue there. Honestly, it's worth considering in this case maybe taking a smacking in something like that. So we'll see. I'm kind of going maybe a little further than I need to here on the body language, but it's worth a look. Okay, so if I preview in the main viewer, they move. If I use the pop-up viewer or render, they don't. Okay, so that matches pretty much what I experienced. There's definitely something screwy about this scene file. Even if I delete all of the animation keys from the plastic tool, it still prevents the eyes from moving. So it's not anything about the plastic mesh keys. Definitely weird. Let's go ahead and render. I'm going to say this is 72. If I come back here, what I'm going to do is delete this out of the Vegas file because I know that we're going to be adding more frames. I'm just not quite sure how many. So let's just go here. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-R and just bring it into the show as is, just to see what happens. So on the other screen, you guys are seeing the preview, but that's fine. This is 511. It should be 72 frames, which it is. I'm going to open this up, 8 frames a second, and read. So the vest bar comes in, tells the soldier to leave them. Tianara perks up, and Your Highness, I think she says. Hello. Okay, not sure. I think I went too far. People. But conceptually not too bad. Once we add the plastic tool back in here, I think we're going to have a little bit of secondary animation. Okay, so yeah, well, Soda Pop, I will tell you, you when I started this live stream, I was live streaming for an hour before I realized that my live stream was set to unlisted. So then I unlisted it. So, but thanks for coming back. I did. The rooms transferred, the skin transferred, the hotkeys transferred. The only thing that didn't was some of the sub settings for tools. Like, for example, my eraser was not set to freehand mode out of the gate. So very, very small things. All in all, I would say it's all fine. But if you look through, if you watch this video file, if you go back and watch the second hour, what are we at? We're pushing 2.5 hours here total on the live stream. You'll see that there is one apparently pretty major problem that I have uncovered very quickly, actually, in Tahoma 1.2, where there is animation that was done with the plain old Animate tool, you know, the A key, which plays back fine, but then when you render your scene, all of its animation is discarded. There's no animation. So there's some scary things in Tahoma 1.2 that I have not seen before in any other version of Tahoma or OpenToonz. So there are definitely some concerns, but we're working with it. And Darren, I actually transferred the file to Darren. So this final drawing is not needed. It should actually end here, I think, and then cut back to the princess, and then to Tianara, and then when we come back to him, he's going to be back to this look. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Okay, so Golden Slime and Soda Pop both are like really into the idea that I'm using Tahoma 1.2. So let me show you. Actually, I've uncovered another bug. Okay, so the bug that I just discovered in Tahoma 1.2 is that, if you can believe this, the About box that shows you the version number of the program appeared on my other screen that's up that you guys can't see, and the header for the little window is above the screen, so it's literally in the one place that the mouse can't possibly grab it. So I have no way to drag it down into this window. But this is, in fact, Tahoma 1.2. Now, having said that, I want to also note that I tried the bloom effect on this scene, as you can see. Okay? But I didn't really like it that well. And so what I did was I actually clamped down my imagery from my scene and rolled my own bloom effect by adding, by desaturating it, adding a blur, and then doing an additive composite over the top at an opacity level of pretty much close to half, and I believe I set the blur to 200 pixels. So I rolled my own bloom. I didn't use the new bloom effect. I actually found it to be a little bit problematic in that if the settings can go from from here to here, what I found was that if you turn it up to this, or well, I guess you guys are seeing this in reverse. If you turned it up just 5 or 10%, it was too high. So there's some scaling there's some scaling of the settings, like the gamma and the level, that are uber sensitive, like where I think that needs to be looked at. So we're going in this shot from this to this, which I think looks pretty awesome. So I also use the body highlight effect. And yeah, things are looking good. But we need to go ahead and, oops, we didn't mean to open the function editor. I meant to open the schematic. Okay, on the stage schematic, now what we're going to do is we're going to pump our character back through the plastic tool again. We've got our basic animation happening. It looks fine. So now let's see if we can add that final little punch of character animation that you get with the plastic tool. And before I go too much further, I want to check my prefs and change my interpolation back to linear instead of constant. So Control C. I'm just kind of going with what I feel here. Boom. Yeah, right about there. Let's Control V and then maybe have a like a 2 like a 2-frame shift here. Maybe there. Let's see. Yeah, actually I like that better. I'm gonna say I like the idea of him saying and then cocking his head. So he would say, yeah, hello. Okay, and then let's copy this keyframe too, because we're gonna need it here in a minute. Control C. Boom, right there. Control V. Yeah, I like that. Should that be wiggled at all? I don't think so. That's getting into dangerous territory. Yeah, pretty awkward. So this image needs to be dragged down to here, and let's get rid of this one entirely. It's just too much of a good thing. We're just going too far with the fancy schmancy effects. So Control Shift R. So now that everything's piped through the plastic tool, let's see if our animation accurately survives the render process. So wait a minute. Hit close and open again. It'll work. I have the same thing. Are you talking about the scene that we're working on that had the issue? Because I opened and I apologize, Darren. That comment, hit close and open it again. I didn't see you when you posted that, so I'm not sure what you're referring to there, unfortunately. I'm gonna make a release video for it. Yeah, I knew he would. And then make a beginner's tutorial for OpenToonz. So now, by the way, to just so you guys know, probably, so I've got 10 people watching right now. It's probably most of you were not watching when I live streamed for 2 hours this morning. That video, the second half of it was pretty much useless because of I was bumping into software issues. So in YouTube, I went into the edit mode in YouTube and chopped off the second half. So it's just an hour long. And YouTube is going to process that. But that video, I'm mentioning this because Darren talks about tutorials. But what that video does, it explains in pretty great detail how the stage schematic in OpenToonz can be used to control how you parent levels one to another if you're doing puppet animation. And then it also gets into how to use actually the skeleton tool so that you can use inverse kinematics in puppet style animation. So if that's of interest, I should be able to get that posted either later today or tomorrow but I need to let YouTube process the editing in the background so it trims it down to just the first hour where there was some good stuff that you can learn from. So if you're an OpenToonz beginner, that video will probably be useful to you, I would think. Okay, so Soda Pop. Yes, that's the other thing I wanted to tell you, bud. The one thing that did not work at all was the Photoshop import. Okay, so, but I want you to know that it has long since been a known issue that Krita, you know, everybody's had to reverse engineer the Photoshop format because it's not an open format. And Krita has been known for a long time to not actually do the world's greatest job of exporting as PSD. And so everything I showed in that first 2 hours where the Photoshop, whether you did it as a sequence of frames or whether you spread it over columns, didn't matter. Everything that went wrong with Tahoma 1.1 also went wrong exactly the same way in Tahoma 1.2. I don't believe that that's a Tahoma issue. I think it's completely a Krita issue with the way it exports Photoshop files. So, all right. So, okay, so you meant close and open for the about box. Well, I did close it. Let me see what happens if I open it again. Okay, there, you're correct. Now it showed up in the corner. But yeah, as you guys can see, I wasn't lying to you. This is, in fact, Tahoma 1.2. And I will say, all in all, every more often than it used to. But so this is the shot that I've just rendered out. Here it comes. Hello. I like it. I like it. I like what Maria said. She feels for him. I agree. The poor guy. The poor prince has no idea what to do or say here. So, okay, so that's good. We've got, yeah, so we've knocked out, I'm happy to say that we have knocked out our 15 seconds of show today that I kind of look at as being highly necessary. And we're about to get a few more seconds because of the reuse. So I've been importing PSD with Affinity and it works just perfectly. Well, Soda Pop, to your point, the question is, are you using PSD files that came from Krita? If you're not, then that's where we've got the disconnect. From what I recall, it seems to me that I tried, this has been at least a year ago, but one thing I did was I took Photoshop files, because remember, when I started on Salt and Light, one of the things I was doing early in the process for this particular project was I was exporting from Krita as an ORA file, which is the native format for my paint. That worked very, very well. And what that allowed me to do was create a bunch of stuff in folders, and I wrote a batch file that unpacked the ORA file into folders so that all the image sequences were automatically available in OpenToonz or Tahoma. Okay. It seems to me that at that time, the reason I landed on ORA is because it was the least egregious format to use as an interchange format, and I had jumped through a bunch of hoops with Photoshop because I thought Photoshop was going to be the interchange format between my programs. I didn't think it was going to be ORA. And so I took Photoshop files from Krita, I brought them into GIMP, version, but from what I recall, the Photoshop files from Photoshop worked fine, bringing them into Tahoma or OpenToonz. But it's just, the use cases are very few because I really just don't originate art in Photoshop. So, okay, looking at Darren's comment, he says it might actually work perfectly for single drawings, but with multiple layers out of Krita, but maybe not for animation. Basically, that's kind of sort of true. What generally happens is that the first, well, it would be the bottommost layer in the stack. So in the example I gave, there was, let's see here. Have I got these layers soloed at the moment? There we go. So let's kill this, kill this. Oh yeah, so that was all the cutting and pasting I did. But what it looked like would happen, let's just say this is the bottommost layer. What it would do is the bottommost layer would appear in all the columns or something like that. It's a really strange bit of confusion that's happening. Okay, so the other thing I want to do here is double check my colors. Okay, so I think we're okay on our colors. So with that, let's save all, and then what I'm going to do is actually load the 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 scene that was broken as far as rendering goes. Okay, I don't know if you saw my message earlier, your stream dropped, but regenerating the plastic mesh for scene 510 enabled the eye movement to begin again. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it right now. This is 510, and what I'm going to do, and this is an interesting point you're making, because, and I really appreciate you doing that, Darren, because you're jumping through a lot of hoops here. But as I recall, this was actually a regenerated mesh. In other words, I had generated it once and then I generated it again. And the reason was because if you go back to the original art here, you'll notice that her eyebrows were placed up here, and I was using the plastic tool to drag them down. Let's just turn this on and hit the X key and go into animate mode. So as you can see, I actually created a little sub-rig for her eyebrows. Okay? And when I did that, I had to regenerate the mesh. So let's do it again. I mean, there's no harm. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're getting into shaky territory here. So you're not saying regenerate the mesh on this level. You're saying kind of clean it out and start from scratch. Is that what you're saying? In other words, I'm going to go create mesh. Okay, and that's a little weird because now, oh, I'm on the wrong column here. I want to grab this column, hit the X key, and I want to create a mesh. And what I should see, like you see there, so that includes everything. And we apply that, and now we have that mesh in place. And I'm just going to stretch it south like this so that the old mesh is down here and the new mesh is up here. Okay? And we know this is the new mesh because this is, as you can see, I had to go into edit mesh and close up this little gap, which, again, you say there's something screwy about this scene. You're right. This little issue right here is something I've never seen happen before, and it's happened repeatedly, which is that I have to close up this little gap in the mesh that happens. Interesting that that gap happens to be right near the eyes as well. So there's something about that. Let's just kill all these meshes. Let's just kill them. I didn't want to do that. What I wanted to do is I want to keep the animation keys. So, okay, that should work. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these, and hopefully it's not going to delete the whole level. And it did. Darn it. It won't do the one thing I want it to do. So I have to keep some dummy mesh in there to fool it and keep it from deleting the mesh entirely. Okay, so now what I'm wanting to do, specifically here, is generate an entirely new mesh. Okay, so I'm going to create a mesh and apply it, but it created it on the same level. Okay, no undo operations available. Okay. Okay. Let's back up. Slow the heck down. Let's take everything out of the plastic tool. Because, frankly, Tahoma's making the correct assumption. The correct assumption is, if I'm going to create a mesh on this column, it's reasonable, since it's already piped through the plastic tool, to assume that I'm wanting to create that mesh on the same column. So that's not ridiculous. I'm going to create a mesh, and I want to look really, really close here. And see that? Isn't that strange? Oh, I know why. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Here's what we're going to do. I think I know what the fix is here. We're fixing two things. We're fixing the rendering issue, but we also want to fix the mesh generation issue. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to add a new column or a new color that's completely obnoxious, and I'm going to hit the fill tool and fill this in. There's other ways to do what I'm doing, but this will work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hit the mesh plastic tool. I'm sure this has something to do with the problem, by the way. Let's create a mesh, and now we don't have the issue. Okay, so now we'll apply that, choose a different path. Okay, and so now we have a separate column, and that's a good thing. Now, it's probably not the case that I'm going to be able to go in here and hit undo and have something undo. So instead, I'm going to have to go ahead and erase this manually again. I wonder if I hit color 0 and hit the fill. Yes, that did it. Good. Yes, 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 yes. That's what we wanted. Okay, so that's something you guys should know. If you use color 0, you're effectively, color 0 is really actually just alpha. Okay, so now that's good news. Okay. Yeah, and the other thing you can do, by the way, is just create a blank column and draw a shape that encompasses everything you want to have influenced by the plastic tool, and then it'll generate the mesh that way. In this case, I wanted to keep her body and her eyebrows separate anyway, so I'm gonna try a kludge here. I'm gonna try a kludge, and my kludge is gonna be, I'm gonna look at this level settings, and this is extras temp 1 mesh. Okay, so I'm gonna hit Control C. Strike that, the opposite. I'm going to grab this. Darn. Okay, we have another disaster on our hands here, believe it or not. It appears that I inadvertently reloaded the version of this that's in the temp test folder / project, the temp project, which means I'm doing everything right now in the wrong Tahoma file. But you know what? Okay, for the moment. See, the problem is that means that this temp mesh is all going to have to be copied over. We have another mess on our hands. God darn it. I swear to God, I can't even count how many things have gone wrong today. And it's all my fault, so can't blame Tahoma for that one. What I did was I went into open recent scenes, and I just opened that without thinking about it. I should have opened this. Okay, stop. I'm gonna I mean, we might as well save all, but I'm not going to try to solve the kludge. I am going to, come hell or high water, we are going to load the correct Tahoma file, which is this one. I'm actually going to just redo that just to be sure. Okay, and we're going to do everything over because I'm not going to try to paste these situations together. In fact, quite the contrary. On the other screen, I am quite literally deleting the temporary test version, the test project. Interestingly enough, this has happened with Tahoma before. Okay, so another thing I'm getting with Tahoma, I've seen this the last couple days. It's happened a couple times. Is that basically, if Tahoma creates a folder, it will not let you delete it. It's like it's flagged on the system to not allow you, even as administrator or anything, to delete your folders, which I think is just insane. So yeah, it's blowing file system errors. This happened the first time a few days ago. Very, very, very frustrating. It's like you have no freaking business telling me what I can and cannot delete. And yeah, So I'm trying to just delete the folders that it created, and it's saying you need administrator permission. Yeah, it's an OMG level bit of screwiness. So anyway, what we're going to do here is I'm actually a little creeped out because I should not be seeing this color. Actually, that shouldn't be there, since that would indicate that that two completely different projects are referencing the same column and palette, which means it wasn't actually duplicated in the test project. It's freaking weird. And the only way to grok that out is to start going in one by one and looking at the level settings. So it's in the extras folder, but the extras folder as a subfolder of what? And it is the correct project. So okay, we're going to go with that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump through those hoops again. So here, why we're seeing this red color that I added in the temp folder, I don't have any idea. But what I'm going to do is, I think that if I go into the plastic tool, create the mesh, yep, apply it, choose a different path, and this looks like it is the correct path. Okay, drag this, cause you to lose a bunch of work. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. So now what I'm doing is I'm going into the drawing, and I'm using the fill tool, and I can't do it through the X sheet. I have to go back here to the level strip, and I'm choosing color 0, which is going to effectively paint alpha. It's going to paint transparency. That's always true. That's what color 0 is for. Okay. At least I think that's a fair statement. Okay, so now what should happen is we can see all of our animation, and now we need to render the darn thing and see if it rendered properly. If it did, then I'm going to blame the issue with editing the plastic tool mesh by hand, which, by the way, I don't know if I've ever done before. You know, in all this time of using Tahoma and OpenToonz, I don't know that I've ever manually gone in and tweaked out. I'm just checking my paths to make sure everything's in the right place. Okay, so here we go. I'll bet you it's going to work. Control-Shift-R. And now let's jump over to Vegas. You guys can see it, and let's see if the eye animated. And it did not. Okay, so we're doing this one little iterative step at a time. Generating a new mesh didn't solve it. Generating a new mesh that was not hand edited did not solve it. So now we're going to go with Darren's advice. So what we have to do in order to do that cleanly, and by the way, this is all worth doing because this drawing of TNR is going to be used in like half a dozen scenes. So we might as well get it right. We might as well get it right. So now what I've done is I've unconnected or disconnected the plastic tool completely, so that when I go in here, let's just go ahead and fill that back in, go up here, hit the X key and generate a mesh. It's now going to generate that on a completely different level, as you can see. So now, Darren, I'm going to ask you this. As far as you know, is there a way to, and I'm going and coloring her eyes back to alpha again, by the way. So fill tool, fill with color 0. Okay, is there a way in this plastic tool level to grab a hold of the skeleton from another level? It does not look like it. However, you know, this is about as ugly as it gets. Let me think about this. I'm going to try something radical. I'm going to open the schematic, and Tahoma seems to be wanting to take a long time. So I got an idea, and now that I have my idea, Tahoma's freezing up on me. Well, yeah, I mean, of course it is. This is insane. I know this is not going to work, but I'm going to try it just to see if it sort of works. Okay? Now you're not going to believe what I'm about to do. This is the old plastic tool level that is already animated. I'm going to daisy chain them and see what happens. And okay, so the answer is that doesn't work. You cannot daisy chain. So this is being controlled by this plastic tool, and then I daisy chained this one into this one, and its animation isn't doing anything. So okay. So the question, yeah, Darren is asking precisely the right question. If we copy the keys, does it actually create the skeleton in this level for us? Because right now there is no skeleton. But the problem is, this is a really complicated skeleton. So what we're hoping is if we hit Control C and then Control V, nothing happens. So it doesn't know how to cope with what I'm trying to do at all. Now, to be fair, maybe what we should do is that. So this is the orphaned plastic tool level, and this is the correct one that we want to use, that at this point has no skeleton. So just for due diligence, I'm going to go Control C, Control V, still doesn't work. So basically we have to recreate the skeleton completely. And I don't even have a way to do that. You know, I don't even remember exactly what it looked like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the X key, and I'm going to go in and build a skeleton. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this from scratch and hope that everything works. Right. Fortunately, it's a small scene, and actually most of the plastic tool animation, it was just a little turn of the head. The main plastic tool animation that mattered was the eyebrows. So what I'm going to do is go like this, and then what I did was I said we want to parent the eyebrows to this node right here, so that when her head rotates, the eyebrows will go along with it. So the way you do that is you go jack way out here and come around, and then I went boom, 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 boom. Okay, so that's pretty much my skeleton. So therefore, we're going to turn off keep distance so that we can stretch the eyebrows down to here. Okay, and then turn keep distance back on, and now we can animate. Okay, so we got our starting position, and I would guess, to be safe, what we probably want to do here is in our preferences, switch this back to constant interpolation, and now we should be able, I'm going to turn keep distance back off, by the way, so that this can be raised up, this can be squatted down and kind of bent like that, and that should give me boop. Okay, so yeah, this is happening too early, so let's sneak that back up there. She glances around, blink, and then I'm thinking right there we'll go ahead and kind of reverse what we did a minute ago, just because it's fun. Okay, so I'm not going to worry too much about her body, but you can see that the irises are animating. So at this point, as far as I'm concerned, let's just delete that column and clean our media pool, as it were, which in OpenToonz or Tahoma means go to the scene cast and just hit remove all unused levels and file, save. I'll just save our work. So now the question is, if it renders, do her irises move? I mean, that's the question we're going to find out. So if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. So the only thing we've lost is the little tiny bit of body language where she sort of perks up. And we can reproduce that. Let's make sure it's going to render first. and then we'll see. So now we're back here, and let's see what happens. Nope. Nothing, including an act of God, will cause the eyes to animate. The eyes will not animate. Okay? So now we're into let's try one other thing. This'll definitely break the look of the scene, but just as, again, we're talking due diligence here. This is column. Another thing that's unique about this scene, by the way, Darren, just so you know, is that the irises are actually part of, and it still looks right. And the reason it looks right is because the body language that caused her head to tilt is no longer in the animation anymore. So if I don't do the body language and this works, then at least that gives us a fix that kind of sort of gets us there. So I'm going to hit the Animate tool and actually modify this. Okay, stop. Undo. Okay, so now it appears. Yes. Tahoma2d is doing the same thing it did before. I'm on a column, I hit the Animate tool, and this is just, I call it a bug, call it a feature, call it what you want, but here's the deal. If you go into your schematic and grab anything at all, and then you go to your X sheet, grab a column, and hit the Animate tool will be referencing whatever you grabbed in the schematic last. And the way you fix that is you click away from it and click back. So just something to be aware of. All right, so now what I'm going to do is grab the All tool, just rotate those guys, just so slightly. Okay, so now we have the animation of the eyes. Their initial position probably should be there. Let me see if that helps. Okay, that was not what I meant to do. So delete that key. Okay, that looks pretty good. So the other things we're going to want to check are, what if we draw the irises of her eyes in a completely different level strip so that we're not actually, it shouldn't matter, but it is what it is. So is the fact that her eyes are in the same level strip as her body, but actually being exposed in a different level on the X sheet, is that causing an issue? I don't know. If her irises don't move, I'm fetching a beer. Okay, her irises are moving now. I don't blame you for fetching a beer. A beer sounds pretty good right now. File, save all, Control-Shift-R. Okay, let's find out. They moved! Ah, they moved. Okay, so it's got nothing to do with being in the same level strip. So the issue, gosh, refresh my memory. What was the issue? Was the issue, oh, taking it out of the plastic tool. Taking it out of the irises are no longer in the plastic tool. So that means that if I wanted to add that secondary animation with the plastic tool, I would have to manually go in and adjust some keys on her irises. But something about those irises being piped through the plastic tool broke their individual animation. I guess I can kind of see the point. Philosophically, you're saying, well, if you're piping a level through the plastic tool, your whole point is for its animation to be controlled by the plastic tool. Therefore, I guess we're saying that any animation keys that resided in that level are not going to allow your item to dance around inside of the plastic tool. So that explains it. That explains it. Just regenerating the mesh worked for you, but Stream freezes to wait for you. Yeah, we have a 30-second delay in the stream at this point. So I think that here we are. We're in a good place. This is a good place to stop. The next shot is going to be pretty quick and easy to do because all we're doing is animating what we already have. And I need to kind of rethink what I'm doing with her eyes. The solution would probably be to actually put the irises in the same drawing like I did with the eyebrows, put them in a different place if I want to use a plastic tool. Regenerate the mesh, and then use the plastic tool to go ahead and animate the eyes. You could do that. So we're going to have this shot coming up next, which is going to reuse this shot of Tianara. Obviously, the storyboard looks like a slightly different drawing, but and then we're back to the prince, and then we're back to her. So there's a whole series of shots here that we want to get the structure of the character right because we're getting a lot of mileage out of these poses. So I think with that, this is a good place to stop. We got some success on the eyes, and I'm frankly getting hungry. The idea of a beer or a so we have a fallback. So now here we go. Okay, so I got the same result Darren did. After I completely regenerated the mesh and the skeleton, I was able to pipe the irises through the plastic tool. So I would call that painful but a success. So that's good. So that's very good news because what that means is this structure works, and I can use this shot now to go ahead and do the entire next shot of Tianara, which means I'm going to get the next 8 seconds or so of show probably done in half an hour, which is great, which I will, I'm sure, do today. But I think I'm going to do it offline because I'm getting hungry, ready for lunch. And so with that, thank you guys for all your help. Thank you, Soda Pop, for your opinions and ideas. Thank you, Darren, for grokking through this problem with me. Thank you, Maria, for always having pleasant things to say to bring sunshine to everyone's morning and day. Thank you, Golden Slime, for checking in and kind of seeing what the heck's going on. And anybody that I forgot, Amar, maybe Amar is still lurking around, I don't know. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop. And as you guys know, as I always say, there will